2020 version of Membership Day. Membership Day has been a Guild tradition for many years. It's a time to recognize our long-term members and also to hear from a Shaw guest and get a sneak preview of what's in store for the following year. But this is definitely not a normal year. And this is definitely not a normal way of holding Members Day. In addition to the fact that it's going to be virtual, we've also had to have a change in our agenda today. So let me just start by saying, I know most of you have tuned in expecting to hear Tim Carroll. TC is in England, and he's having trouble with his internet connection. And I think we all know what that can mean when you're on a live broadcast like this one. So he's not able to join us. And despite all Janet Hanna's best efforts, last minute, we are not able to have a Shaw guest with us today. So that means we've tweaked the agenda, and I'll go over that in just a moment. But what I would ask is if you had questions that you had ready for TC, please submit them anyway, or comments, and we'll be recording those and collecting them and getting them to TC, and we'll get some responses back to you. So back to the agenda. First item was to be TC. Not going to happen. Your questions instead. Second item was to be me, and I had the honor of going through the names of 23 of our long service members. This year, ranging in service from 10 years to, get this, 40 years of service with the Guild. With the change in the guest, it dawned on us just very, very few minutes ago, as we realized that TC wasn't going to be with us, that means you were going to be listening to this talking head for a long time, because I had a chance to talk to a lot of our longer term members and had wonderful stories of their highlights. And it just wouldn't do justice to that, to have me on the screen talking at you with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out and acknowledge all of the names of our 23 long service recipients, and then we're going to post them on the website. And then I'm going to call on Alan Walker, who will become your new president, actually exactly 1 month from today, on November the 23rd at the annual general meeting, to hold an absolutely super Members Day in 2021, where we'll have a chance to recognize not only the newer longer service members who joined that year, but go back and recognize all of these amazing Guild members who are part of our celebration today. Then at the end, before we get to the end, Susan McDonald, who's our membership chair, Susan's going to come on, and she's going to talk about the membership process for 2021. When she's finished, we're both going to come back, or I'm going to come back. And if you have any questions or comments, either from what you've heard today or anything at all, we just have a little bit of time now on the broadcast, and we'd welcome your comments, and we'll attempt to answer those at the end. So if that's okay with you, we're going to start by acknowledging our amazing long service members. And we have a PowerPoint presentation for this. So I'm going to put my glasses on, and we're going to bring up our slides. So we're on to our first one, which is the Barnums. Geraldine, Jerry, and Robert have been volunteering at the Guild for 40 years. And if I can just put that in perspective, because it helps me to figure out, 40 years ago was 1980. If you remember 1980 was when Pierre Trudeau defeated Joe Clark for Prime Minister of Canada. It was also the year, if you bought a house, where the price of an average house was $47,000. That was the good news. The bad news was the interest rate was over 15%. So we thank these two so much for their amazing years of service. We have one member, Margie Enns, with 35 years of service. And if any of you were with us last year at the Community Center for Members Day, you may recall Margie was on the list of recipients for that event as well. And that's because we made a mistake. Last year, Margie received a service pen for 20 years because we had her start date incorrect. So Margie, we wanted to make sure that you got your 35-year pin this year, and we thank you, and we actually thank you for 36 years of service in 2020. We have 2 members who are celebrating 30 years with us. Betty Blaney has been with us for many years, doing many volunteer roles at the Shaw. And also we have Peggy Lampert. Peggy sent us this wonderful photo of herself with an elephant. And lots of stories from Peggy that we'll share with you when we get together again next year. We have 6 members who have 25 years of service. We have Lindsay Dobson, and I'm just going to go through these slides. Lindsay Dobson and Sheila Hill, who many of you know. This photograph actually was Sheila's interpretation of the Noses exhibit that she ran last year in the spirit of Cyrano de Bergerac. So we have Jackie Johnson. Jackie and I actually were neighbors in Toronto before she moved to Toronto. She was smarter and moved here before I did. But Jackie with another 25 years. Next, Josie O'Brien. Josie's folks who, again, a volunteer who's done just about everything in her 25 years with the Guild. Next, Ruth Payne. We thank Ruth, and we finally have Irmgard Penner, all of whom have done amazing work, particularly around hosting. That seems to be the favorite thing that people do. And the other favorite that came up from a number of our recipients was the Members Terrace, and I think we no longer do that, but it was a time not only to greet patrons at the door, but actually have a chance to chat with them at intermission about how they were enjoying the performance. We have 6 folks with 20 years of service, starting with Rawlis Blake. Rawlis and her B&B, she greets not just the regular patrons, but sometimes her own guests come to visit the Shaw. We have Peter and Mary Jocelyn, and I want to put out a special thank you to these 2. This has been a particularly difficult year for the Jocelyns. Peter has sold their home and is moving to Niagara Falls to be closer to Mary, who's in a new home there in long-term care. So Peter sent me a note this morning saying he wasn't going to be able to join us, but making sure we passed on the fact that he has enjoyed every minute, he and Mary, of his service with the Guild. Also 20 years, Lenore Morrison. Lenore joins us with her cat. We've learned a lot about pets in this pandemic, and I'm sure that Lenore's pet there is enjoying her broadcast as much as the other pets of our members are. Next, we have Nancy Ployart. Nancy, we again thank you so much for 20 years of service with the Guild. And last but not least, Brenda Troutmansdorf. Brenda, again, a long-term host and someone that has met many people during her hosting experiences. And then last but not least, you may remember if you were at Members Day last year, that was the first year we gave out 10-year service pins. And in the past, basically, oops, and I forgot Joan Wilkes. How could I do that? Joan, so sorry very much. Last one for 20 years. 20 years is something we should not forget. Thank you so much for your service. Now I think we are on to 10-year recipients. And we had a large backlog last year that we had to catch up with. But we are pleased to add 6 new members to that honorary list this year. And I'll just read out their names: Carol Andres, Jane Calver, David Livet, Julian Rance, Barbara Waller, and Susan White. So literally from all of us to all of you amazing, amazing folks, thank you so very much for everything that you have done and everything that you continue to do to support the Guild and the Shaw Festival. So I think you've probably heard enough from this talking head, so I would like to pass the program with the magic of YouTube. I can disappear and Susan can appear. Susan, over to you.
Thanks, Laurie. Hey, everybody. Laurie said it. We so appreciate your loyalty and dedication, especially this year, which pretty much stopped in March. And we hope that we've been able to keep you engaged and up to date with the Shaw through various communication and events we've done. It has, no question, been a weird and not so wonderful year. However, 2021 does look more promising. Fortunately, we didn't get to hear the details we wanted to today from TC, but we will, and we've started to see some stuff on the ShawFest website, and it's looking good. For membership this year, I'm sure you all noticed you did not get any notifications about early bird contests. We decided that we would renew memberships at the start of next year. Most of you probably know this. Memberships officially end January 31st, 2021. So we will launch the membership renewal campaign either at the very beginning of January or at the end of December. Because we do need the fees. There will be a $20, as usual, renewal fee, and the fees are used for our operating expenses and fixed costs. Last year, we introduced permanent name badges with Shaw Guild lanyards, and there was no year on the name badge, which now has turned out to be a really good idea. These badges are permanent, and if you have one, you've got it for next year. For the people that never had a chance to pick up their badges, I've got them all, and you will be getting them next year at the first meetings of greeters, hosts, docents, and any other event that we hold to kickstart the year. So hang on, you are going to get your badge. Are there any questions? If there are any questions about membership or anniversaries, I'm going to bring Laurie back, and we're happy to answer them.
Thanks, Susan. I was reminded earlier today when we learned of the changes we were going to be making to the agenda of a comment that John Mather, one of our greeting gurus, makes, and he talks about life happens. And certainly life has happened to a lot of us during the pandemic. And this couldn't really happen. And one thing I know about Guild members is we are flexible and we can adapt even when things change on the fly. I'd like to acknowledge Cheryl Moores and Brenda Weaver. They are backstage, and they're the ones that are producing this and controlling our movements on and off in the slide presentation. And thanks, Cheryl, so much for all the time you've taken to put that together. And also thank you to all the long-term service members who spent time on the phone with me chatting about their experiences over the years. As I say, we'll have a super celebration when we can do it properly next year with introducing them in person and having photos taken and get their pins and maybe even a few hugs in the agenda as well for all their service. So we don't see any questions here. So I don't know. Do we have anything at all that you want to ask? Now's their chance.
Well, there's no questions now. There will be an e-blast about membership, and there'll be an email address that you can write back to if you do need some more information, and that will all be coming in a month or so.
Okay, folks, so if that's it, if we have no more questions, we've probably done this in record time. And I will remind you of two things. First of all, Christmas is coming up, and the Shaw, B. Campbell at the Shaw traditionally organizes a donation program where they gather funds for Christmas presents for needy families. She's doing it again this year. And basically, she we'll be looking for donations. The Guild, we managed to find some money from things we haven't spent. So we have donated $500 on behalf of you from the Guild, but I know she'd also welcome individual donations. And all of that information will be in the newsletter, which goes out on Monday of next week. And Sheila has a question here that says, what's a hug?
Oh, don't be that pessimistic. It's going to change soon. Please.
Sheila, here's a virtual one for you. How's that? How's that? So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. And the second one was the AGM. It's on November the 23rd. I couldn't believe that 2 years as your president has gone by so very quickly. And I thank you all. It's been an amazing journey for 2 years, even this year, which was not what we expected. But your support, your commitment, you are absolutely the best. and I'm going to miss being your president, but you're going to be in excellent hands with my colleague, Alan Walker. So if we have no further questions, one last time here. No, so I think we will sign off. We will say thank you. See you at the AGM. Please have a look at the newsletter. There's lots of great stuff in it coming out on Monday. We have the ambassador program back up in town until the end of the year. If you're interested in volunteering for that, there's still a few slots. We'd welcome you. And with Emily Lukasik as our team lead, we are doing a Christmas Alada Noddle box, and there'll be information about that in the newsletter too, as well as a new initiative called IDEA. And I'm going to leave all of that and let you read about it next week. So thank you all so much. Bye-bye.